I'm Brittany Gall, and you're listening to Trans.mission. Today, our focus is on transgender college experiences. We will explore what college life is like for those in transition. We'll hear from the parent of a transitioning teen and 2 transgender community activists. It is estimated that more than 7% of college students identify as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. But what does transgender mean? The term transgender refers to individuals who do not identify with traditional gender categories of male or female. At the university level, transgender students' needs are often overlooked by administration, even the most basic of needs such as housing availability or restrooms, along with costly things like health insurance and options at athletic facilities are not of importance unless a student speaks up. College is a time of self-exploration. We must ask ourselves, are we truly allowing our students to explore their own true identity in the college setting? Do we have enough safe space where they can question their gender, question their self-identity? What can we do to make college as simple for those who are transgender or questioning their sexual or gender identity? Jake.
Started my transition in 1998. I was 33 years old. So there was no type of support, there were no resources. The internet was just barely at the beginning stages, and if you typed in the word transsexual, which was what most people called it back then, you'd get more hits for porn than resources. We were sideshows, we were freaks, we were not understood. When I was growing up, and I knew, I didn't have the language was never there. And so you didn't know how to talk about it. You didn't know if you could talk about it because it was so unheard of. College was really a struggle because most people go into college trying to find themselves, trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives. Sometimes they meet a person that they fall in love with and what have you. And I was somewhat of an enigma because I didn't like myself. I didn't like anything about myself. I couldn't connect with who I was. And interestingly enough, for me, my undergrad degree is in youth ministries. So I went to a Christian college. My faith is very important to me. But that crossroad of figuring out who I was and my faith kept me very well hidden. Depression set in, anxiety set in, suicidal ideation all set in. And I didn't like myself. I just didn't, and it wasn't because I was a bad person. It was I did not know who I was. When I went back to school in my 40s to get my master's, it was interesting because I had already transitioned. My name had already been corrected. I was born in Massachusetts, so my birth certificate could be corrected, unlike here in Ohio. But even still, like when I applied for financial aid, they always ask the question about if you have signed up for selective service. And I said no, and automatically there was a flag. And so then they called, and I had to sign this paperwork stating that I was not obligated to sign up for selective service because I was born female. And that I was transgender. And of course, there's a form for that. But it was interesting because you don't think about those things. So that actually stopped my financial aid until that could get taken care of. And then even within the school system, my records were fine, my name was fine, but professors, while they had no other name to call me, they had to call me Jake, but still were, and this was in a diversity management program where diversity was the key. I was told that I couldn't talk about being transgender, even though they talked about it in the class. I was advised that I could not do any of my projects on transgender issues, it was very evident that the coordination of this program was not very supportive of diversity, even though that's what the whole object of the program was about. But it was very difficult because even, we're talking 2008, 2009, 2010, the elephant in the room where it was the LGBT community. And then, of course, we had students that were like, well, I don't care, I will never support anything gay or trans related in a diversity management program. I will not be an advocate. I don't agree with it. It's against my religion. All of these things, verbally saying these things, and passing a diversity management program. When you're filling out applications, there's nothing on the application that just asks male or female. A lot of schools, there are some, but not a lot of schools ask if you identify as transgender. Because there are many students that we know that are coming into colleges and universities whose pronouns are not just he or she. And if we are truly going to teach these students, then we have to teach by example. And especially, because then the students are now not only having to deal with family issues, if they've come out to their families, if their families are not supportive, if they have any type of religious background, now they're having to not only have to concentrate on their schoolwork, but now they're having to worry about being misgendered by their professors. Can you imagine the learning that these students would have, and the abilities, and the professors, and the willingness to help create this fantastic learning system where these students didn't have to worry about being outed, didn't have to worry about being used the wrong pronoun, didn't have to worry about being called the wrong name because they're able to use the name that they identify with instead of a professor going, oh yeah, that's right, you don't want to be called this, you say you want to be called this, and totally making a mockery in front of a student. But we don't think about names. We don't think about the fact that birth certificates in Ohio still can't be changed, and it does affect schools. We don't think about, where they're going to sleep, where they're going to lay their head at night, dorm rooms. We don't think about those things. Some of the individual schools do, but mostly administration doesn't think about those things. They think, oh, okay, let's just get the green in, and yeah, we're going to help some great students be some great people, but how can we help students be great people if they don't even know how to do that themselves? My hopes are that they can put down on their application who they are and not be worried that they're not going to be accepted, worried that, the wrong person is going to see this and then it's going to be flagged, not worry about being housed with somebody that may not understand or appreciate them because you're housed with the wrong person. That can cause a lot of stigma for one whole semester. That's a long time. But part of it is getting to the other people that are misgendering individuals to realize that it does matter, to say it's not acceptable. We do need to respect somebody for who they are. Use the name that they're asking to be used. Use the pronouns that they're asking us to use for them, because it truly makes all the difference in the world. Because if we are not addressing people the way that they want to be addressed, then we are saying give up. And when trans people start talking about giving up, it's more than just giving up their pronoun, giving up their name. It's giving up their identity, and then eventually it's giving up, period.
Jessica.
So, my name is Jessica Wilkins. I am 24 years old, male to female. I knew something was up in preschool because I always wanted to play the mommy in the game House. Then I went to culinary school, Johnson Wales University in North Carolina. And I was very deep in the closet. I dropped out of school, moved back home, went to a therapist, and she's like, so why don't you just transition? Like, this is what you need to do. And I was like, my parents are gonna kick me out. They didn't. I started slowly transitioning, and I enrolled at CSU. I started CSU as a guy.
Okay.
So my first semester, I had shaggy hair, a beard, but I was still on hormones.
Okay.
I started hormones about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
During winter break, so basically I went on to winter break as a guy and came back to school the next semester as a female. So all the friends I did make, I lost. I did go to the guidance center to ask like one of the counselors there, like, what do you think my approach should be?
Mm-hmm.
Should I like tell my teachers? Like, what should I do? She's like, I don't know. Why do you think, like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I'm going to be a female now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go by a different name. And she's like, why don't you just walk around the school looking for someone that's trans and ask them? I said, what I'm going to do, just find someone that I think might have been born a male. I email all my teachers and say, hello, on the roster it will say Chris Wilkins, but I just want to let you know I'm transgender, I go by female pronouns now, and if you could you please call me Jessica Wilkins? 50% usually say okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other 50% don't reply to my emails.
Okay.
And then the first day of class comes and they do roll call and they're like, Chris Wilkins, and I don't answer because I don't want anyone to know that name of mine. And then I have to go through this awkward process, and some teachers will never call me Jessica. It would just basically cross me off for participation because I didn't participate because they didn't call me by my name. I did go to the medical center at CSU last fall. They kept referring to me as sir the whole time, and they said they couldn't help me because I was providing like false ID. Yeah, I guess the only other issues is I am president of the LGBT club on campus. So, we had a prom at Fenn Tower. We had 75 people show up. It was a great turnout. Because a lot of LGBT people in high school don't get to experience prom as they want. I went 4 times, all in a suit. Everything was approved for, and afterwards, I was told that I had to pay my caterer out of pocket. And I said, why can't I use the school? And they said, you misfiled something. But I then had a meeting about a week later, where they said, maybe you should step down from being president. And I'm like, oh, no, like we're not threatening anything. We're just saying that as president, things might not get approved. And then on campus, so we have Christian Alliance. We also have a trans support hour held by the counseling center, and we have an LGBT support hour. Both actually, Bruce in the counseling center holds those. So that's with the help of the LGBT Club, Christian Alliance, and Melissa. She's part of a lot of stuff. Urge is one of them, so Surge is her club. And that's actually a national organization also. With her help, we got gender-neutral dorms on campus. The other issue that I've run into a little bit at CSU, even though there are laws protecting people like me, is bathrooms. When I first transitioned, I was an ugly girl. I was a horrible. I looked bad. I didn't know how to do hair. Makeup was bad. Everything was horrible. So like I'd be in the business building in like classroom like on the first floor, like 155, and every time I had to use the restroom, I knew that no one used the restroom on the 5th floor. So I'd climb 5 flights of stairs and use the restroom. But there is a code within the CSU rule book saying that transgender people can use the bathroom that matches with the gender identity. And then over the summer, Ordinance 1446 got passed, which allows transgender people to use the restroom of their choosing, but only in Cleveland. There are a lot of LGBT students on campus, and a lot of them do not have a safe place to go. They don't know where to turn to if they have an issue. They don't know what teachers are safe. Not all people are out at school, but they still go through these issues. I know a lot of trans people at CSU that are 100% passing, and no one knows they're trans. But it would be really nice if there was a support system, because we have different issues than a normal straight cis guy, and we need to feel safe in our learning environment. If we're not feeling safe where we are, we're not gonna do as well in school. There needs to be a center on campus, a certain spot where people feel safe at. It's LGBT friendly, trans friendly. There's an administrator that knows all these questions, knows how to answer them. Like in August 23rd, my name will legally be Jessica. I'm going to the courthouse. That's when my court date is. And I have no idea what to do afterwards. Who do I go to change my name in the system? What about for all my classes? What for past classes? How do I make sure that all the classes I already took are transferred to my new name? I'll be basically a new person. I'll have a full new name. I'll have new pronouns. My driver's license will say female. So I don't know how to do any of that. And there's no one I can think of that I can ask that can help me with this process. There's whole departments for financial aid, and there's whole departments for student advisors and counseling and classes you want to take, but not how to figure out the basics that I need to know. See, a lot of people when they see LGBT pride rallies and all these things, we don't want more. We just want to be equals to everyone else. So if I can come into school, my old stuff has my old name on it. It doesn't match up. I can just tell them, hey, just let you know I am transgender. This is the reason why. And they should have the sensitivity training to know what to do. I shouldn't be fumbling around. They should... I don't want special treatment. I just want to go through school as a normal college girl. But say you're coming to CSU. Go to the organization fairs and see what resources on campus. If you're incoming freshman, you have Queer Student Alliance. We'll always be there for you. There are trans support hours and LGBT support hours. Bruce works in counseling. He is a great resource. He is very LGBT friendly. And just kind of, we're a home away from home. We're a community, and we have to stay together, and we do.
Marion.
Well, Kit told me at 13, but publicly did not begin his transition until 14. So privately, it was between us and our family, but we started wrapping our head around it at 13, and then slowly over the next year, he became more and more public. Honestly, one of the biggest obstacles has been Kit's own sense of self-identity. He was not... I think that probably more children would have accepted him, but he was not comfortable revealing that, and he was worried about what the minority was going to say. So, I mean, if anything, I've been struggling to help him overcome his own sense of embarrassment or anxiety around this. It has less to do with what the schools are offering or restricting, and more to do with what Kit himself is worried about. Oh, it's had a huge impact. I mean, everyday life has been completely changed. Even if you're just talking just the pronouns, that's a huge, it was really difficult for us, I mean, you have 13 years of a little girl, and now everything's got to change. And I mean, I still even 2 years later, I still say she and her and stuff when I don't mean to, and I can see it in his face when I do it, and I go, oh yeah, blah blah blah, her, and his whole face falls, and his whole face Like I can tell, like I just hit him, like it's almost violent, and that's really, I think, one of the biggest impacts is that, that awareness that you're going to hurt him if you're not careful, and that it's not going to be intentional, but it's going to be just as violent as if you had like physically assaulted them or if you had intentionally insulted them. Obviously, physical safety is one of my biggest concerns. You hear a lot about violence being perpetrated against transgender people, and that is huge to me. It's in my it's in my forward thoughts. It's in my brain at all times. It's in my brain now. Even at 15. I sort of I realized a couple months ago that I have 3 years to get the world ready for him, and I don't know if I'm up to it, to get the world ready to be a safe place for my child. And, I am not going to be able to get the world ready. I'm going to have to get my child ready. But that's backwards. I mean, how do you tell someone, you have to be careful just by being you? How do you explain to someone that they have to, step lightly and be very, very careful just in order to be themselves, and that sucks. The world should be accepting, and the world should, not want to hurt my child, but I know that that's not true, and so I'm just doing my best to try to make our little corner as safe as possible. Make sure that he's got allies, and that he's got friends, and that he's got, people who are going to step up, that if violence ever does happen, or if, whether it's emotional or physical or anything, that he's got resources, and that he knows how to take care of himself, and that he knows what to do in those situations, and to not be a victim. So it's not going to end at 18. I know that. I knew that already, but I hadn't put words to it, and I hadn't put a picture around it. So yes, it does. As far as what that's going to look like, I'm not sure yet. I've been so focused on high school and getting through high school, and I know going into 10th grade, we really do need to be thinking about colleges now. But honestly, my brain has been so focused on the immediate and what we're doing now and making school safe now that I hadn't even thought about it until this conversation. The big thing that I think concerns me the most immediately is things like dorm rooms. Will a college accommodate a transgender man in their dorm rooms? Kit does not belong in the female dorms, but will they allow him? So, and I know freshman year, very often, dorm rooms are the way to go before you get an apartment. So, the question is Kit going to be allowed to experience that? What will they do? And if he's out of state, how am I going to rescue him if something does happen? What am I going to be able to do, for my adult child? On top of that, there's just the general concerns of wherever he goes, whether it's college or to a job or to, whether he takes a year off, whether he goes straight to school, it's all the same, honestly. Is he going to be safe? Is the world going to be ready for him? If a transgender individual still has their legally born name and is still legally the gender they were born with on their birth certificate, I want them to acknowledge that that's not the right thing, to seal that record. They have to have it legally, with because of Social Security numbers and whatnot, but to seal that record and make it unavailable to basically anybody. That it would only have to be requested by Kit himself in order for someone to see it, or there would have to be something legally happening, for a lawyer to be able to see it. Like I said, the name issue is a big one too. I mean, we had to do when we went to when we picked him up from boarding school and we went to online school, it was a big deal to try to get the online school to change his name when he logged in every morning. Every morning he would log in and it would say the old name, and he would automatically every morning get faced with dysphoria. And it was a big deal to contact them and to be like, hey, you have to put his name on here. You guys are, you're stressing him out. And, they were very receptive to it. They agreed with me, but it did take a little while for it to happen because they didn't have the protocols in place. They're making the protocols now because of kids like my child. Like it's happening as we speak because of kids like my child. So I really would just hope that their protocols for these types of things would continue to progress and to happen in a way that is not distressing for the child. To be transgender and to be a teenager is distressing enough as it is. To be a teenager is distressing enough as it is. It's a stressful, distressing time. And add on to that gender issues, and you've got, the recipe for disaster. Like you've got a kid who's going to be in crisis like all the time, and little things like acknowledging the name and acknowledging the gender on the report card and things like that are so small, and they take so little effort, and they have such a huge impact. Yes, there's the bathroom issue, yes, there's the bullying issue, and those are all things that have to be addressed, but the personal issue of addressing the student how they want to be addressed and treating them in a way that they want to be treated is so easy. It requires no energy, and it's huge. The impact, the return is gigantic, and so that's what I would really say is start with the office. Start with, what the report card says and what the roll call says, and and how the teachers refer to him versus her, and that's, basically I think 80% of it gets done right there, if with just those small little efforts. It has to do with the confidence of the child and the emotional well-being of the child, and when they know that they're supported, things like bullying and bathroom issues suddenly don't seem so big. You need to find other people that are going through it too. There are Facebook pages that are there for parents of transgender children. There are support groups in just about every large major city. You have to find other parents, because there are things that you will know and that you will go through that no one else on the planet will be able to relate to unless they're going through it too. People can sympathize, people can they can imagine, they can think that they know what you're going through, but until you have one of your babies tell you that they're not who you thought they were, it's almost like losing them. It's almost like there's a part of you that wants to mourn for the kid that you thought you had, but you can't mourn because they're still alive and they're still in front of you and they need you now. So it becomes, you start bottling up your feelings, and you start bottling up everything, and you start denying your own emotions and for the sake of your child. And the reality is that you need a space to let that out. You need somewhere where you can say, I'm mourning my child. Even though I'm celebrating who they are now, I'm also mourning for what I thought I had and what I thought my family looked like. And it's normal, and it's not something to feel guilty about, but it's also something that's very complicated and that you can't reveal to the world outside, because you have to be the advocate, and you have to be strong, and you have to be the one that's leading by example, for everyone around you.
Student needs are complex matters, and the issues related tend to be diverse and sensitive. Each university setting is different and holds its own unique set of challenges. For those professors out there, when in doubt, begin with self. For students who struggle with male or female gender identity, defer to their choice of language for self-identity. Empower their use of that language by supporting it through your usage. It is estimated that 2 to 5% of the population is transgender. We must ask ourselves, what can we do to keep the conversation open? What can we do to create a safer environment for college students as well as prospective college students? How can we make our universities inclusive and sensitive to the needs of our diverse population? Thank you for listening. Again, this is Brittany Gall with Trans.mission.